wives and the mothers and the daughters play a major role. If they fulfill their responsibilities, then men also take an example and adapt to the teachings because of women. In Islamic society, when a man leaves Islam, then he has harmed himself and the society up to one level. When a woman does that, she goes 10 times more than him, because she is emotionally stronger and she has a stronger impact on the family. And as we said earlier, that Islam emphasizes that the nucleus of family, the nucleus of society is the family, and that runs around a woman who controls or who runs the whole of the family. I understand that I may have not connected everything so well, but inshallah you will all forgive me for that, and probably I can contribute better when answering the questions. So if you had any questions, then I would answer them.
Yeah. Basically, we can see that where given the opportunity, some women might do a better job than men.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, in terms of social positions that women can have in the society. For example, we see that in Iran, more women make it to university than men. So why can a woman not be the president of an Islamic country?
Okay. Now, the understanding of, because of the general rules, that she cannot be the head of the state, or the judge, for example, or the religious leader. She can qualify as a jurist. She may be better than many of the jurists, and she religiously or spiritually be on a higher rank. There will be exceptions, and there always have been exceptions in the history of mankind, where women have gone, many women have proven to be better than many of the men. In fact, many times we've had women within Islam and outside who were better than most men in their time. In fact, they were the best in their time. So we have had examples within Islam and outside. Islam does not say that there will not be exceptions. There will always be exceptions, and there have been exceptions. And Islam has counted many exceptions in pre-Islamic history, within the Islamic time, and the Holy Prophet predicted that there will be exceptions. There will be women who are better than men. But as general rules, when you're making a general rule, you do not make that rule for exceptions. For example, in Britain, when you're making a rule, you will not say there will be these exceptions, so I'll consider it. Exceptions are rare. There will be few exceptions. So you do not make the rule for 5, 10, 15%. You will make a general rule. And Islam says that generally these are the rules, and not everyone will fit onto that. There will be exceptions who will be better than, there will be women who will be better than all men. And there have been women who were better than all men in their time and time before and after them. But these are exceptions. Generally, because of their emotions, that's what they, this is not something that I want to impose, but this is the Islamic ruling on it. Because of the emotional side of women, Islam does not allow the women to be religious leaders and the head of the state. They can become anything, as close as that, up to that position, but not the head of the state. So that's a general understanding. There are people who oppose it, who probably say that there are exceptions, even they. I have read their arguments, but I have not seen clear-cut proofs from the sources that we use. So they have not given enough proofs for them to have their rules established. But yes, exceptions are everywhere. You will have women who are probably more learned and who are better in all, by all means they will be better than many men. But these are the exceptions. Yes.
You just said that women shouldn't be jurists because of their emotions, but a minute ago you said that women are emotionally stronger. What do you mean by that?
Picked out. Emotionally stronger in terms of, the love and the care that they give is stronger than men. So in that dimension, on that point of, from that angle, they are stronger than men in performing care and love. But in terms of controlling their emotions, for example, a woman will not be up to the level of a man generally, not always. There are probably women who are stronger than many men. I do not feel that many of the women in my family are any less than I am. But that's as a general rule, they will not be able to control their emotions at certain positions, for example, making decisions as a jurist, giving sentences. So they can be anything next, but not to certain positions. So there are exceptions of I think 3 or 4 positions that they cannot hold, and only men can hold those positions. Leader of the prayer as a jurist, and the head of the Islamic State or the religious position. So these 3 exceptions they can not hold.
You said there were some professions that men aren't allowed to.
I will not be able to count all of them. There is a scholar who has gone into writing a book. I will just recall probably a few of those. For example, certain medical fields will only be midwifery, for example, will be only specified to women in Islam. There are other exceptions, witnesses for certain things, for certain rulings in Islam. In divorce cases and many other cases, only women can become those. But there are, I think, generally would be to do with, I think, probably medicine and probably to do with women affairs. I hold that as not as a full responsibility, but that's what I would generally think, based on my knowledge. But there are people who've gone into writing books in giving further divisions. For example, Muhammad al-Hilli, one of the writers, 7 years ago, he has a whole talk on it, on the differences of opinion. He goes into categorizing everything. So in that he will probably count many different things. Yes?
How would you relate to your last statement that women cannot be the leader of a society, or, with the Queen of Sheba example, because Quran talks about the example of Queen of Sheba.
Queens have always been there. We've always had queens. But, for example, even Britain only had one female prime minister. America has never had a male president. These are not, Queen Sheba, for example, was pre-Islamic. Islam does say that she existed, and she was in the time of a prophet, Solomon, who legislated that government. But the Holy Prophet and Islam and the Holy Quran does not, for example, legislate that a head of the state, they can be heads in their own departments, head of the department, for example, anything but the head of the state. So they can be probably running a whole ministry or a secretariat. They can be heads in a society, but not head of the state. So that is an exception. So, for example, the president or something like that. But not necessarily that they cannot be the heads of a society. So they can lead a society, they can be leaders, but as a leader of the prayer, for example, or the judiciary, and the head of the state, not the society. So the society will be an exception, obviously. So, but the head of the state, because of the traditions that we have on it, the ulama will not be able to go and oppose it. So something that, for example, comes from the Vatican, they will not oppose to it. They will say, okay, there must be an explanation to it. I'm not claiming that we have reached, or I can conclusively say that we have reached the philosophy behind, we have reached to the philosophy behind every ruling. No, we haven't. There will be times that we'll probably learn new things, but there are, or probably at least to his own time, and we cannot change that until a divine leader comes. If someone like Mahdi alayhi salam or someone like Jesus comes and says that it is now not the case. But in that society, that was a case. And he did not say that this will be exempted or when will it be exempted. And that we cannot change. Because we do have clear-cut verses in the Holy Quran that say, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. Today we have completed the religion for you. So when the religion has been completed, we cannot make changes to it. Especially on the issues where there has been a clear-cut ruling on it. So those are things that we will not be able to say that, okay, I can do my own understanding and give a new ruling. We cannot make exceptions. That's, yes. Yes.
What is the Islamic view on like women in paradise or heaven?
Sorry, can you explain that?
So women in heaven or paradise.
Yeah.
How are they viewed the same as men?
How will they?
How are they viewed? Like, what does the Quran say about it?
Now, all men and women equally and